Hello, my name is Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to talk about how to write a personal reflection paper using analysis and synthesis. For this, it happens that we're using an assignment from the Conflict Management Program from CONR 617, but these are principles that can go to any sort of reflection paper where you're supposed to not only state what your thoughts and observations are, but explain how you came to them. Let's go ahead and first take a quick look here at our webinar guide, because we have a lot of webinars, and if you're new to the Writing Center, you might not be familiar with all the ways that we have to access and find the resources relevant to your classes. If you go to the Writing Webinars page that's shown here, you scroll down to the middle, you'll see this tabbed guide, where if you select your program, CONR in this case for the assignment, you can see all of the assignments for that program, all the course numbers, course assignments within them that have direct tie-ins with particular webinars. So if you happen to be involved in CONR 617, you'll see that we have a webinar there already. By the time this recording posts, this one will be linked as well, and I think we have 2 more coming for that class, and we add those as soon as they become available. You'll see me using the APA course paper template. If you are trying to watch our webinar videos on the go, we have a YouTube channel to make that more convenient, and we explore various topics on our blog. There's a lot of other stuff on our website, including guides, some cases sample papers, templates for specific assignments. But right now we are going to dive in, and we're going to start with a overview of reflection strategies and talk about why you might be writing a reflection and what kinds of things are important and helpful in one. Then we'll look specifically at the instructions for the sample assignment. This is coming from CONR 617's Week 2. And then we'll talk about the no tears plan for paragraph writing, and then finally how to apply that in the outlining and drafting stage. If you happen to be enrolled in CONR 617, we do have a webinar that we launched earlier this week for the Week 1 assignment, so make sure to check that out. And if you're coming to this later in the term, we've got other things popping up as well. So let's talk about reflection. Like, why would you want to write a reflection? And part of this has to do with understanding the cycle of learning. If we looked at the experiential learning cycle proposed by Kolb in 1984, we have this circular thing where you can go back and forth between these phases of concrete experience, active experimentation, abstract conceptualization, and reflective observation. And this can move in either way, because our thoughts, our reflections, or realizations sometimes will lead us to concrete actions, sometimes it'll lead us to more abstract insights, and sometimes we have to go all the way to experimentation to reach one of those other stages. So it is part of a stream of understanding what's going on, whether that's the world, or whether it's a concept, an experience, perhaps problem resolution. And so by writing a reflection, you can show that you have learned, that you have been changed by an experience. You can take those experiences and compare them to what's described in literature, recommended practice, what certain theories say happen, and you can also reimagine those findings and experiences towards the future. Now, throughout the CONR program, you are preparing assignments that ask you to reflect on past experiences and to connect those towards future things that you might want to be doing, future things that are probably going to be coming up in your degree studies. So writing the reflection is not just, oh, here's some thoughts. It's, here's some thoughts directed towards an outcome that is important to you and to your studies. Another way of understanding that, to quote author, reflection allows students to make sense of material or experience in relation to oneself, others, and the conditions that shaped the material experience, and to reimagine material or experience for future personal or social benefit. And that's coming from Ryan's 2013 article, The Pedagogical Balancing Act, Teaching Reflection in Higher Education. By the way, if you're feeling a little bit out of sea with looking for ideas for ways that you can reflect, it's not a bad article to check out, because it lists some of the strategies that you might use or through lines that you might use in your reflection. Now, speaking of some strategies for reflection, well, first, tell us what's being reflected on. Describe the event or the artifact, the incident. Contextualize it with the literature. Okay, what do published things, what do your course textbooks or your assigned readings say about this kind of thing? How does it align with the course objectives? Like, what are you trying to do in this particular course? We'll look at that in a little bit. And describe and explain what happened before the reflection. How were things before you came to present insights? And where are things now? What has changed, if anything? And what will the changes do or facilitate? And why is this going to be important? Now at this point, let's take a look at this assignment here. So as part of our sample here for this webinar, we've chosen as a demonstration an assignment taken from CONR 617, the Managing Conflict in Churches course. Now this is a personal reflection paper, and often I have students coming to me saying, well, it's just a reflection paper. I just share my thoughts and I'm done, right? Well, that's part of it, but we want to be connecting this to the larger purpose. Why are you taking this class? Why are you in this program? What do your reflections let you do or understand or do better than before? So let's take a look at this. So the assignment says to write a 600 to 700 word reflection paper. That's going to be roughly 2.5 to 3 pages that has a few questions to answer. Okay, as a child, what did your family system teach you about conflict? What effect did anxiety have on your family system? How did your family system establish or maintain homeostasis? And did your family system find balance between separateness and closeness? Or did it go to an extreme? And how does your childhood family system inform your views on conflict in the church? So while this is a reflection paper, it has some very specific beats that it wants you to cover. So this is not a stream of conscious rambling thing. This is a focused, okay, here's some specific things that they want to get your thoughts, your insights, your observations on. And if we look at it, 2.5 to 3 pages, okay, the introduction is going to be about a paragraph, conclusion, about a paragraph. Then we have 4 body paragraphs, four main elements, which could be 1 to 2 paragraphs each, and that's going to get us right to the page limit. Each paragraph is around 5 to 7 sentences. So it's really asking you to write about specific things and to not go off track, because then you will run out of space. And if we continue, we see there are some specific requirements. Okay, cover page or title page. Great, that's standard thing. The word count, that's a non-standard APA thing, not a problem. We call that a house rule. So there's a house rule here from your instructor saying include the word count on the title page, and a reminder that it should be between 600 and 700 words. Include a subheading for each prompt. Note to not quote the sources. Okay, so paraphrase, cite, summary. And then the rest double space, 12-point Times New Roman. That's standard APA format stuff. If we look at the rubric, it is basically reiterating all the things that were listed here, with the caveat that here in the rubric, it is summarizing this so that 2 of the bullets here are consolidated. And a note that 10% of the grade, that's a difference between an A and a B, or a B and a C, is it coming in the right length, and is it well written, and according to APA style and clear communication guidelines. So with that in mind, let's talk about the no tiers plan. Now, if you've watched our Beyond Summary webinar or our previous webinar for CONR 617, you'll be familiar with this, but let's talk about this sort of argumentation in light of the instructions here. So let's take that first item. As a child, what did your family system teach you about conflict? Now, according to the no tiers plan, we want to be starting each paragraph out with a clear topic sentence. So if you're answering that question, what did my family system teach me about conflict? I'm just going to give some illustrative examples here. So I have a friend who said, oh, my family system told me that when a conflict arose between me and my siblings, that I should just ignore it. That was what I was being called to do. And not going to say whether that is right or wrong, or good, bad for the person, but if we're trying to summarize in a topic sentence, we try and find the big picture and write something like, my family system taught me to repress conflict and not try and resolve it. So that's stating what the paragraph is going to be about. Now we need evidence or argumentation. Okay, well, how about some examples? Something happened and what was due? Then you discuss, well, okay, here's how I understand what went down from that incident. That would be the analysis. We repeat as necessary and eventually synthesizing, okay, well, what does this mean put together? Like, how did this affect me? Now, it's always coming back towards that first thing. Okay, what did your family system teach you about conflict? There'll be other places to talk about how it informs your views on conflict in the church, so wait till you get to that point. But that's the basic idea, where we start with a topic sentence that directly answers the question. Then we give evidence to support our answer. We analyze it, synthesize it, and then we move on to the next thing. Now, because we have covered this in depth in other webinars, I'm going to just gloss over these next slides, and we are going to move right towards the question of how would this look like when you're applying it. So when you're applying this, we want to first keep in mind what we're using as our lens for analyzing this. And in this case, the assignment, we have the Module 2 readings from How Your Church Family Works, the Steinke book. So if we're going to reference that, we want to make sure reference is in APA style. And you'll note that not all of the information that is in the syllabus entry and not all the same formatting is in the APA style one that I've included below. If we're going to be citing that, it's going to be Steinke 2006. If we're mentioning Steinke in the body of the sentence, then Steinke parentheses 2006. It's a parenthetical citation at the end, Steinke, 2006. If for some reason you want to identify the exact page that something came from, which is a really helpful strategy for keeping notes on where to look up, because we've got 10 chapters of reading for this week, then you would include the page number as you see in the third example. Now, do remember this assignment specifically says you should not be quoting directly, so we're not going to be talking about quotes and formatting them in APA style for this webinar, but you can catch that in our Intro to APA style webinar if that's something you're interested for another assignment. All right, moving forward, we want to get a copy of the APA course paper template. So if you don't have one already, I recommend, if you're watching this on video, pausing and downloading it now. So I have here a copy of the APA course paper template, and you want to start by filling in your basic information. Now tell us what this is, and it might be helpful to know that in APA style, you're not required to have a very original title. It should be accurate and informative and reasonably concise, but if it's just week 2 reflection paper or my thoughts on this or something like that, that tells us what we need to know. Just make sure that it's going to be the same on the cover or title page as it is on page 2. So if we have week 2 reflection paper, all right, have them both. So I'm just going to quickly take out all this placeholder text that's here to show you how the formatting looks. And same thing with the references. Now, if we look at the Module 2, we see that we've got the readings are all from this course text here. So let's go ahead and just paste that in. And now we know, all right, it's there all ready to cite. Now in APA style, you do need to reference every work that you cite and cite every work that you reference. So make sure that you do that, but that'll come up pretty soon. All right, so as a general step, I recommend that you begin by copy and pasting the instructions from the assignment. It gives us a list of what the instructor wants to see in the order they want to see it, and suggests the word choices that we need to do to meet that. So I've gone ahead and copy and pasted in the assignment instructions, and the first thing we're going to do is start crossing off things that we don't need to be paying attention to. 12-point Times New Roman font, double spacing. If you're using our APA course paper template, that's already set. So we're going to go ahead and cross that out, so we don't need to look at that. And we see, oh, okay, formatting instructions. Cover page, got that with name, course number, assignment, title. You can fill in those. And word count on the title page. All right, now the instructions don't say where to put it, but here's a nice place. Word count. And then just to make sure that I see it, that it's very visible, I'm just going to highlight that, so that's a reminder to fill in that word count later. So if I'm looking through my draft, I'll see, oh, hey, there's that bright thing. Let me take care of it. All right, so now I can go ahead and cross that out. We'll leave the reminder for 600 to 700 words for now. Include a subheading for each prompt. Okay. Well, that's something where we can go ahead and separate these out and write a heading. Now, in APA style, you don't actually include a heading for introduction because it's the start of the paper. We know it's the introduction. It's the first thing. It introduces the rest by virtue of being there. But for these other things, think about the prompt and compose a heading that summarizes what you're talking about. So I'm just going to call mine Childhood Lessons About Conflict. Now, if you're using the APA course paper template here, we want to format this as a heading, and it's very easy because we have these styles built in. You can also see them by clicking on Styles pane when we're on the home part of the ribbon. And I want this to be the AP Level 1 heading, because it's the first heading in the document. You can see how that becomes automatically centered and bolded. Same thing here. All right, I've selected AP Level 1, it's centered and bolded. Now, one thing that sometimes people ask is, does everyone need to have the same heading names? No, because you may have a different focus, and the important thing is that it be descriptive and reasonably concise. So I've chosen to call this one My Childhood Family System and My Views on Conflict in the Church, because that encompasses, with detail and, I think, fair conciseness, as the things that the prompt is asking me to do. Now, are there other things you could use? Absolutely. But let's start with having something that fulfills the necessary function first, and then you can work on filling out that. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to italicize the questions here from the instructions so that we have just a visual separation between what's the instructions and what's your responding to that. Now, let's say that we are working on the childhood lessons about conflict here. As a child, what did your family system teach you about conflict? Well, the best thing to do here is to start with a direct response. As a child, my family's system taught me whatever it is. For example, so this is the supporting evidence, and you can give you can give more examples too. Sometimes more than one is helpful for making the point. And don't just summarize it. Give us some analysis. As a result, so, for example, if I had here, when my older brother did X, I was told to defer to his judgment because he was the older sibling. As a result, when I was the oldest person, I thought people should defer to my judgment too, or whatever the lesson might be. So we see, okay, there's the evidence, there's something that happened, and here's the consequence. Now, what that matters for in the present day, that's going to depend a lot on you and where you are in. So we're talking about what you understand there, and sometimes some people are in a situation where their lessons learned about authority mean that they challenge authority, or that they question authority, or they go along with it. And this is part of what you see as the received lesson. Now, what you do with that lesson after, sometimes people try and unlearn lessons or modify it or double down or return. And I don't know what those will be, but those will be part of your synthesis here. Okay, here's how that matters, what it means all put together. Now, what effect? Well, let's talk about what that means. You can talk about events or direct consequences. You can talk about attitudes or feelings. If you have something where you have high anxiety, that's going to influence a lot of stuff. So tell us what those were. And you can break this down in terms of example for me, example for my sibling, example for my parent, whatever it happens to be. Now, with this one, we have the question of, okay, did your family system reach homeostasis? And the reality is that families are different. They're run a range, and maybe homeostasis was a very temporary thing. Maybe it was something that required a lot of force to do, or maybe it was very easy. Let us know what homeostasis looked like, if it was achieved, what actions were necessary, perhaps were they difficult things? Did it involve someone doing a lot of sacrificing? And when we get to this part, think about what the trade-offs were and how those carry forward into your life. Myself, I am one of 11 siblings. That is, as I say, a blessing that's not for everyone. Some people, it would drive them crazy to have so many people in the house. Other people, it is wonderful. It definitely created different experiences in terms of who is close to who and who wanted to have room of their own at which time, and that may be complicated by birth order and things like that. But I will say that the fact that I grew up with 11 and now I live by myself with more elbow room, there's probably some connection there. And that's how I, in my larger family system, have found my balance. But whatever is your case, tell us about that. And tell us, okay, what was done? And what's important? Was that easy? Was that difficult? How did it fit together? Let's take a look back at those note tiers plan slides again for a moment. So the analysis, that's where we're discussing the evidence, like the examples that you're giving, and how it connects to the larger topic. The synthesis portion, we're talking about what it means when put together. This can be things like, oh, how does this extend into your relationships outside of the family, including those at church? For example, do you have an expectation of sharing things that is or isn't being frustrated, or boundaries that you do or don't want? Those are just a small realm of the things that you could explore in synthesizing this. Now, something to keep in mind that we want to make sure that your analysis and synthesis are explicit. So don't just imply the connection, tell us what's going on. And that's something for APA style. We need to have those insights being written out. And that when you are synthesizing, that you're bringing new conclusions from looking at how this information fits together. All right. Now, to this last one, how does your childhood family system inform your views on conflict in the church? So let's take a look back at the rubric for this assignment. You can see the second item in this table. Paper explains what your family system taught you about conflict and shaped your views on a conflict in church setting. So this is really where things are going. This is where it's all circling back to. So yes, how you grew up is important, but it's talking about connecting that to that overall thing for the course. Now, this is a good time to look back at the program and student learning outcomes for this course and for this module. Because as I mentioned earlier, reflections, one of the most important things is how you connect it to your larger purpose. So if you're writing your reflection paper and you're feeling you're not coming up with enough ideas to talk about, I would recommend revisiting the program outcomes, which they're more than listed on the slide, and the course objectives that are listed by module, and see, okay, what are the things that here you might latch onto to ground your reflection. So it's not just here are my specific thoughts, but here's how I can see them aligning. Now, we were talking about the course textbook, the readings for this assignment, and I will point out that for Module 2, one of the course level objectives is to be able to analyze the pros and cons of the 4 functioning positions described in Steinke. So that might be something that comes up in your conclusion, where you are looking at, okay, so where am I amidst those positions? Where are my thoughts? What do I want? Etc. Now, if you are looking for more information on reflections, we have several webinars that delve into this. You can also send us questions at onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu, sign up for an appointment online, or visit the Online Writing Center website to see more information. That's it for today. Catch you later.